Hello, everybody. I am so excited to get into episode 2 of Not Your Average PK. So, if you've been listening thus far, I'm really happy that you're here. I'm so excited to get into today's topic, which is going to be about our identity crisis. And I just feel like this is so prominent right now, something that God has really put on my heart to speak about because where we root ourselves and where we root our identity is going to be the foundation of who we are, how we act, um, how we think, how we treat other people. So I feel like it's really important to hone in on where are we rooting our identity? Where are we finding these things in? And out from it, everything else will flow. And so I feel like today we are just very confused on who we are, how we find our identity. And because of that, a lot of times we feel very hopeless. We don't know who we are, so we don't know what we're supposed to be doing. And so we just feel kind of stagnant and we're looking for our identity in all the wrong places. We are experiencing high levels of depression and anxiety, and I truly believe it's because we don't know who we are and we don't know what we're supposed to root our identity in or what that even means, our identity. Who is that? Who am I, and what makes me up as a person? What makes up our identity? I feel like is the biggest confusion, and I really think it has to start there. So let's talk about what identity is and what identity is not. And I'm by no means an expert or anything, so these are just my thoughts. Bear with me, and let's get into sharing. So I feel like when in general we're talking about what something is or who somebody is, we have to go first to find out who that is, the very essence of it, in the creator, who created that thing or that person. And let's make it real simple. If we have a piece of artwork, right? And we're trying to figure out what is the very essence of this artwork, we are going to study the artist, the creator who made that artwork to find out what this piece of art means, the background behind it, and to really dive deeper into it. We can't just study the piece of art or know the piece of art. We have to know the artist, the creator. And so then I even think about us as people when we are trying to figure out who we are. Why do we look a certain way? Why do we act a certain way? What do? We go to our parents, our bloodline. Okay, so this is what makes up me because these are my two parents who came together and created me. So I'm a mixture of both of them. That's where I'm getting my looks, my personality, a lot of my qualities, my traits. I'm getting a lot of the very essence of who I am from my bloodline, from my parents, and them from their parents. And that's why I'm saying bloodline because it goes back. And so then why would we not look to the ultimate creator who created all the bloodlines, who created every single person, to look for the root of who we are and who our identity comes from? It comes from our creator. We're seeing that we're seeing that in every way in our daily lives. And I just feel like right now we are finding our identity in all the wrong areas and the wrong things. So let me make it clear. I don't think your identity is going to come from who you hang out with. Your identity is not going to be found in your partner. Your identity is not found in your sexual orientation. Your identity is not just found in the things that you like. It's not found in how you dress. These are not things that define us as people and not things that make us up in our innate identity. Um, and I feel like these things, they may shape us, they may shape our lives and our actions, but we cannot rely on them to root the very our very beings in them for our identity. We cannot rely on our partners for our identity. We cannot rely on who or what we're attracted to find our identity and to root ourselves in. Can't root ourselves in how we dress and how we act. These things are things that are part of who we are, but should not be what we root ourselves in and how we define our very essence and being. So I think the ultimate creator who made everything, who made us who we are, is something that's solid enough for us to root ourselves and know where our identity lies. And I feel like this is very tricky because identity in general is very tricky. Because it's about finding out who you are, who you were born to be, why you act a certain way. It's very tricky because we are complicated beings, complicated people. We're not simple. And I feel like right now in today's culture, we kind of preach that we can be whoever we want to be, that we should just follow our heart, what we like, what we don't like. But the thing that really I can't get over it is like, what if who we want to be, like just us, is not necessarily good for us? What if who we want to be is not actually who we were created to be, you know? Because if we are rooting our identity in something like just what we like, what we don't like, our partners, our sexual identity, right? We're not rooting it in the very solid thing of the person who created us. It's not something solid enough. We're just rooting it in an aspect of our lives. Um and so if we're rooting it in that, what if then what comes out from that are actions, thoughts, likes, ideas, and wants and desires that are not necessarily good for us and compatible with who we were created to be. And so I kind of give you an example, As a kid, I was pretty passionate about a lot of things. I'm still a very passionate person, but I wanted to do everything. I thought I needed to be good at everything in order, to I don't know, enjoy life, I guess, to be successful. I wanted to be the master of everything, prove that I could kind of do anything that I set my mind to because I that's just who I wanted to be, I wanted to be someone who could be anything, do anything and be great at it. And sometimes it was just so tiring and even discouraging at times because I'm not going to be good at everything, especially if I'm trying to do everything all at once. But I feel like right now in our culture, like that same idea is kind of reigning, like be whoever you want to be, do whatever you want to be, do whatever you want to do, and from that you'll be happy. And so I get the sentiment behind it. However, I don't think that this is going to be healthy for us, and I feel like it could hurt us in the long run. Because while we think we are being empowered by this idea of saying we can be whoever we want to be, do whatever we want to do. What if this is the same idea that's actually obstructing us from truly being who we were born and designed to be? Because again, if we're going back to the example of a piece of artwork, in order to find out the purpose of this piece of artwork, no matter how beautiful, intricate it is, we have to study the artist first to find out what this piece of art was designed to do and designed to be in general. And so while culture tells us that we can be and do, that we can be whoever we want to be, do whatever we want to do, where are we getting our foundation from? If not from our creator, then where is it coming from? Because if it's coming from anything else, then the outcome may not align with what we were originally designed to be and do. And so through this idea of kind of just chasing your heart at all times without ever being rooted in a solid foundation, it could actually be obstructing us from being the best possible version of ourselves. Because what if by seeing, endless fish in the sea, we end up missing the ones that we were meant and designed to catch? Not in a bad way of like, you can't do this and you shouldn't do this, but like, what if you just weren't designed to do this and you don't know because you don't know your designer and you haven't rooted yourself or your identity in your creator to ever find that out, to ever find your purpose out? And I do believe that we were all created with a unique identity, a very specific purpose in life. That is what I base my worldview on. If you know me, you know I am a Christian, I am faith based. And so that is where I root myself in, that is where I get my worldview from. But I'm also just trying to look at this logically and understand it logically from a just logical perspective. So I feel like if we all have these unique gifts, abilities, talents, passions, and personalities, all of our natural inclinations and desires, when they're funneled properly as in when we are rooted in a solid foundation, can actually help us understand the person that we are born to be, because we're understanding the creator who created us to be. And so once we do that, I feel like it's just so liberating. It's just so freeing. We begin to feel true freedom because we can funnel our lives through the purpose that we were designed for, rather than just doing anything and nothing at the same time, rather than just being aimless, rather than not knowing where to go, who to be, and trying to just create this person from scratch when we were not meant to kind of just reinvent ourselves and create our own kind of people. We have already been created and we're meant to grow into the people that we were born to be. And I feel like once we are like finally honing in on our true identity of why we were created and who we were created to be, we start to feel true joy, because we realize then that, wait a second, all these passions that I have, all these desires that I have, all these natural things that I'm gifted in, can actually all be aligned with our purpose, all come together to then make up a being that makes sense, that is moving forward, that has a purpose, that's going somewhere, that was created for something specific and beautiful. And then we begin to lean in on our strengths and build upon them, allowing ourselves to grow into the people that we were born to be, rather than building upon things that aren't our strengths, rather than building upon things that are flimsy and wasting our energy actually to achieve something that we were never meant to achieve. Something that may not be life giving to us, even if it's not necessarily something bad, if it's not who we were created to be, it's not going to be fruitful. It's not going to be life giving to us. And I'm not just talking about like career wise or whatever, because I think that's another thing. We get so caught up in our careers where we are literally rooting ourselves, rooting our identities completely centered around our careers. My career is who I am. My work, my job is completely who I am. Well, what happens if you lose that job? What happens if you have a setback in your career? Cannot root yourself and create this whole being around something as flimsy as a job or a career. Your career is a result of who you are. It is not the very essence of who you are. And so once you see it that way, it's also so liberating. You're not tied to doing one specific thing your entire life. You're not tied to one specific job. You're not tied to specific people your entire lives, but you are tied to your creator who everything else flows out from. And you know what? It's also crucial to recognize that it's not all about you. It's not all about yourself. It's not just because, like, if you root yourself in something solid, if you root yourself in God, and then, all those things will follow and work out the way that they are meant to. It's not just because it works out for you that you're happier doing the things that you love and you're good at, which are all bonus points. However, they again should not be the sole reason why you exist. Should not be just because you want to exist to be happy, that you want to exist just to do the things that you're good at, that you want to exist just to, enjoy your life and just enjoy whatever, which are all great things. But again, when you're rooting yourself, your very existence, on something as flimsy as like happiness, it's too fleeting. It's too fleeting. It's not solid enough. And I feel like we're not going to experience true freedom if we root our identity in something as flimsy as happiness that moves with the wind. Our emotions change. It cannot be rooted in something emotional. We have to understand that God created us. He's designed me to do something. So I ought to do it because this is going to be the most purposeful life that I can possibly have. And then when we do that, we actually experience a more fulfilling life. It's crazy. We really do. Because freedom is not being whoever you want to be, but freedom is being who you were born to be, who God designed you to be. And again, it's just, I feel like there's such a confusion on who I am, who I was born to be, my true self. What if all this talk about this is my true self that we've been hearing is not our true self? What if our identity is again not coming from something as fleeting as who I like, who I'm with? It's not coming from our sexual identity. It's not coming from our careers. It's not coming from how much money we have or make, how much success we have. It's not coming from who our friends are, but it's coming from who created me and what did they create me for? Because then it no longer becomes about you just living your best life and the life that makes you happy and what you want. Which again, sentiment behind it, not necessarily wrong. But it becomes about so much more, living for something bigger than yourself. And so when we go to the identity crisis, we have to take it a step further and examine, are we living for ourselves only, or are we living for something bigger than ourselves? And if we're living for ourselves only, then we're rooting ourselves in our identity in only what we want, what we like. And we're not rooting ourselves in something solid, because what we like, all of that, again, it's fleeting, it's flimsy, it's emotional based, it changes with the wind. But, and you know what else? It can lead to a selfish and self-centered lifestyle. I'm not going to say that it is and always will, but it can lead to that. As opposed to when we are living for something bigger than ourselves. Who we are is no longer just based on what we want to do. It becomes based on something eternal. It becomes based on something that we can't always see. It becomes based on a kingdom that is making all things come together for good. It becomes just so much more purposeful, so much more life giving, so much more liberating. And I just want to challenge us to really examine where we are. One, looking for identity, why, and what we are actually rooting ourselves in. I just want to challenge you to just examine all of those things and look to something bigger than just you in finding who you are, what you like, what you want to do with your life, how you want to live. And really, honestly, look to your creator. Look to your creator to find out why he created you and for what purpose, and live for something bigger than yourself, because I can promise you the purpose that you're here is not just for you. It's not just for living for what you want, the life that you imagine for yourself. It's something so much bigger and so much more fulfilling than we could ever dream or imagine. All right, guys, thank you for listening to episode 2. And I was just going to keep it brief and short. And I love you all, and I'm praying for you, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye, guys.